The number of people experiencing homelessness in the United States has increased to its highest level ever. 653,000 people are homeless right now. That's according to a Housing and Urban Development report. Doug Schenkelberg is the executive director of Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. He joins us now to talk about the increase in numbers and some of the causes. Doug, thank you so much for talking to us. This is so disturbing, so upsetting. I mean, and at Christmas time especially, to hear something like this. How did it rise to this level? What, 12% more over the past few years, right?
Yeah, so just in the last year, we saw a 12% rise according to this new data. And what we know is that the cost of housing is really driving that increase. With inflation, housing costs have gone up, and we see that the number of people experiencing homelessness has gone up. And it looks similar to the data that we create through our estimate every year, where we have a slightly more broad definition of homelessness, where we're looking at also at people who are doubled up or couch surfing. And we're seeing similar trends of the number of people experiencing homelessness increasing.
Just curious, how did you get those numbers? You talked about couch surfing and things like that. How did you get all those numbers?
So we utilize census data to look at to include couch surfing and doubled up. And we also look at some administrative data to help understand that. And our estimate shows that there's about 68,000 people in the city of Chicago itself experiencing homelessness when you include those individuals.
You hear about people without homes and you think immediately, at least the media tells us, they're mentally ill. But that's not the only people we're talking about. We're talking about mentally ill people. We're talking about veterans. We're talking about families. We're talking about children. Those numbers are astounding.
Yeah, absolutely. And really what these numbers show us is that while folks who are experiencing homelessness are dealing with lots of different issues, mental health issues come into play, substance use issues come into play, the real driver is housing affordability. And the solution to homelessness is access to permanent housing and supports. And so there's a real workable solution as long as the resources are put in place. And that's one of the reasons that we're supporting Bring Chicago Home.
Doug, where do the migrants fall into this? Because we know every day busloads of migrants are coming in from the border. Where do they come into play as far as this number?
So if you think about this number, this comes from January of this year. So while we were seeing an increase in migrants coming to Chicago at that point, it wasn't to the degree that we've seen over the last 11 months. So it is a piece of the puzzle, but it is just one piece. When you take the migrants out of the equation, you're still seeing large increases across every category.
When we hear about shelters that are being made for them, temporary shelters, are those considered homeless as well?
Yeah, so they're fitting the definition of homeless as folks who don't have the ability to, or living in stable housing or have stable housing.
What you say that stable housing would help. How do we get to that point?
So there's fundamentally, it's about creating the resources to get people into housing that they can afford. So we need to create housing at all levels to help people access that. Specifically here in the city of Chicago, we have the opportunity to create new government resources to provide rental subsidies and supports to people experiencing homelessness through a campaign called Bring Chicago Home, which Chicago voters are going to get to vote on next March. That would bring in over $100 million in new cash every year for permanent housing and supports and have a real impact on homelessness here in the city of Chicago.
How do we get there? Right now, the hue and cry is for the migrants. How do we take care of the homeless? Besides the migrants who are considered homeless.
Yeah, so, I think one thing that's important is that anyone who's experiencing homelessness is someone we need to care about and give support to. So it doesn't help us to divide whether someone's experiencing homelessness because they're a migrant or because of other reasons. We just need the resources in place to help them all. And there's different strategies that we need to get involved with. There's different types of supports people need depending on how they ended up in being homeless. So folks who are migrants, there's definitely different resources that they need. They need access to work permits. They need the ability to get job training and things like that. But the reality is it comes down to permanent housing that's accessible to everyone and the resources in place to make it accessible.
And quickly, Doug, let's do the racial makeup here that we're talking about of those. People who identify as black male make up 13% of the U.S. population, but comprise 37% of all people experiencing homelessness. People who identify Hispanic or Latino make up about 19%, and then about 33% of those who are homeless that's the 19% of Latinos, and 25% of adults experience homelessness are over the age of 54. Those numbers, again, are crazy.
Yeah, and it's even more dramatic in the city of Chicago. The number of people experiencing homelessness who are black is around, they make up about 59 or 53% of the population experiencing homelessness, while they're about 29% of the overall population in the city of Chicago. So it's even more dramatic here in the city. So race is a huge factor when it comes to homelessness.
Doug, let's hope that when we speak next year, those numbers will come down dramatically. Thank you so much. Be safe, be well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.